Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom, and this is the B-movie review, and I'll be having a look at Ghost Shark. So this is the sci-fi original movie, and it comes off the back of the sort of fairly well-known Sharknado film. Well, the Sci-Fi Channel have been doing these kind of shark-related films for a little while now. So this one basically is, a new take on this kind of tired genre. And here we have a great white shark which is ultimately being sort of killed in the sort of prologue of the film by a sort of group of redneck fishermen, and they kind of ultimately decides to torture this shark before killing it because it's pinched some of their fish that they were fishing. This shark sort of swims off, manages to get into this kind of magical cave where it ends up dying, brings back this ghost of this shark pretty much straight away, and it starts taking revenge on pretty much every sort of human. The catch here, of course, is that the shark can appear wherever there's water, and we're not just talking seawater, we're talking any type of water, even if it's the drink that someone's drunk, and it can come up and materialise through that. So the kind of protagonists here are a sort of group of teenagers, and they join forces with a local drunk, played by a Richard Mole, who basically may know more about this sort of phenomenon they're letting on. And what we have here, ultimately, these sort of kids sort of racing around, sort of trying to figure out a way to sort of basically get rid of this ghost, along with the kind of the disapproving townspeople, the adults who sort of don't believe them, of course, what's going on. I actually was quite entertained by this film, I have to say. So let's talk about the positives first of all. I actually think that the concept itself obviously is a very silly concept and it's not meant to be taken seriously. But that said, it's actually quite entertaining, and you have a shark here that ultimately can attack pretty much anywhere. It doesn't actually have to be in the sea, it can be pretty much on dry land as long as there's some kind of water nearby. And actually, the gore effects were pretty good as well. There's a few instances here where you see some reasonable gore effects, and they're quite inventive kills as well. Not just the sort of the kind of standard shark sort of kills that you would think as well. And I have to say, I thought the actual teenagers here were pretty good as well in regards to their sort of acting ability and the sort of the characters, that they weren't necessarily sort of the stereotypical teens that you see in a lot of these films. Bad points: the actual shark itself, I would say, is a fairly poor special effect. It's basically just a sort of rubberized, model shark, but unfortunately it doesn't look a particularly effective monster ultimately, especially when we sort of see it sort of towards the beginning of the film where it's actually still a mortal creature. It looks very fake and kind of rubbery. When you actually have a sort of the translucent effect, it maybe looks a little bit better, but it still kind of looks very fake looking. Obviously it's a low budget film, and I do appreciate the fact that obviously they haven't got a large budget to spend on these things. The other thing is that there are some kind of bad acting, particularly in the sort of the adults. They were far worse than the kind of the teenage actors, I have to be honest. I mean, some of them obviously are sort of really just there for a paycheck ultimately, and kind of just weren't taking it too seriously, which again I appreciate, giving it. It's obviously, we're talking about a sci-fi original movie here. There's also some gaps in logic. There's one scene where a girl was ultimately having a bath. Yes, it's the old shark in the bathtub scenario, and she's attacked quite violently. There's a lot of blood around the bath. Yet when we see her, she only actually has a fairly mild bite on her leg, and it is quite capable of walking around and doesn't even bother going to the hospital afterwards, whilst anyone else actually seems to pretty much has fatal bites straight away. Now, one thing I will say about this film, it's not afraid to kill children, and there's actually quite a few child deaths in this movie, and they're quite graphic as well. So that was a little surprising. Now, I was surprisingly entertained by this film. I wasn't so keen on Sharknado, if I'm completely honest with you. I know a lot of people sort of can enjoy it for the big movie fun that it's kind of was packaged to be, but I actually thought this was actually a better film in regards to its narrative. I thought it was a more fun film as well. But I thought it had a great sense of fun. I thought the actual teenage characters, were fairly interesting characters, and I didn't sort of want to shoot them, so that's a plus point there. But I was actually quite entertained by this, so I quite enjoyed it. And apparently we're getting a Ghost Shark 2, which is already in development, called Urban Jaws. So we'll see what that one's like. But I'm going to give this one a 6.5 out of 10. I actually thought it was quite fun. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.